Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you have decided to watch another portion of this lesson or this class entitled Living as God's Kingdom Man, I am Evangelist Matthew Miles Sr., welcoming you back once again. Listen, beloved, we're on lesson number 11. We will be talking about the concept of a kingdom man. The concept of a kingdom man. Listen, if you are enjoying these classes, if they are blessing your life, if they are challenging you to live a little closer to the Lord, to be just a little better today than you were yesterday, and give you a greater hope for tomorrow as a kingdom man, then share this site with your family and friends, your male counterparts, even your enemies, because that's what Jesus says. That's how we conquer our enemies. We don't destroy them, but we love them to death. We love them to death, and then there's birthed into our life a new friend, a new brother. I am very pleased to be with you on today. Let's bow for a word of prayer just quickly, and then we'll get right into our lesson. Our God and our Father, we thank you for this hour of study once again. Father, we ask you now to clear my heart and my mind. Lead and guide me now into those things I have studied, Father. A portion from Dr. Evans' book and a great portion from your word and from my experience and my wisdom you've deposited into me. Father, help me to say something today that will help us to glorify your holy name. Some lost soul perhaps may be saved, and the saved will be edified, that we will learn to live closer to you as kingdom men. This is our prayer. We ask in your holy Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Brethren, I want to start this lesson of this protracted study by observing and getting an understanding of the term concept, because we're dealing with the concept of a kingdom man. Early on in this study, we defined the term kingdom man in its very essence, meaning one who has given himself wholly to God and is living and calling his plays of life and governing his realm according to the rule book of God, which is the Holy Bible. The word concept, according to the Oxford Online Dictionary, Language Dictionary, the word means an abstract, hold on to this now, an abstract idea, a general notion, if you would. The second definition that the Oxford Language Dictionary yields is a plan or intention, a conception, if you will. Now, I like this third definition. He says an idea, watch this now, or an invention to help sell or publicize a commodity. Brothers, let's follow this or dig a little deeper, if you would, on this third definition. Notice the third definition of the word concept again. An idea or invention to help sell or publicize a commodity. A commodity, brothers, is a raw material or a primary agricultural product that can be brought and sold, such as copper or coffee. But notice the second definition of commodity, a useful or valuable thing, such as water or time. Brothers, men of God, I'm already about to get excited here. But listen, you see, if I don't care what your parents called you, it does not matter what your siblings and your family members said that was negative about you. I come today to tell you, and not concerned, I'm not concerned with what people say you should have been concerned with, or what they think you should be concerned with, because the truth of the matter is, brothers, God is your creator, and God is your maker, and God is the one that you should be concerned with. God is the one I to be concerned with. It does not matter what your high school teacher told you that you will never achieve or become. I made that vital mistake of listening to one of my teachers. Man of faith, listen, it does not matter how many employers have released you or never hired you because they said you were not qualified. I come today from my very war room here with a battle cry that God deposited something on the inside of you. And I want to remind you what that thing is that God deposited on the inside of you. You see, you are more than an abstract idea. I wish I had some help in here. I said, you are more, brethren, man of God, kingdom man. You are more than an abstract idea, because that fearless warrior, the Apostle Paul declares in Genesis, not Paul, but the word declares in Genesis chapter 1 in verse 27 that God didn't just have you on his mind, but that he created man, watch this now, in his very own image. You were not just an abstract idea, brothers in Christ, men of God. You were not just an abstract idea, but God created you. He brought you into existence. Can I go just a little deeper? Listen, let's look at the term image. Look at the term image, if you would. For those of you taking notes and may want to look a little deeper, the strong reference number here for the word image of Genesis chapter 1 is 6754. 6754. And the word here for image is teshlem. Teshlem. T-S-E-L-E-M. T-S-E-L-E-M. And for your pronunciation's sake, the phonetic spelling is T-S-E-H dash hyphen L-E-M. All right, teshlem. And the word image here, teshlem, means to shade. The Hebrew word means to shade. It means a phantom of, resemblance, if you will. It also refers to the term an illusion. Hence, it is image, that is, it is a representative figure of something or someone else. Brethren, I am a strong believer, an advocate of higher learning. I'm a strong believer, an advocate of higher education. My children and colleagues that are very close to me, who know me well, knows that I am an advocate of higher learning. But if you never knew anything about the Hebrew language, the answer to this term or word image of God is right here in the text. It's right here in the text. When God says, let us make man in our own image, that answer, you don't have to know anything about Hebrew. The answer is right here in Genesis chapter 1 and verse number 26. The New Living Translation says it this way. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image. Watch this. Here's the answer. For what reason, Lord? To be like us. To be like us. King James says, after our likeness. All right? Now, here is the question. Here is the question answered of how will man appear in the image of God. The New Living Translation says, they will reign, verse 26 of Genesis 1, here it is, they will reign over fish in the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, all of the wild animals of the earth, and the small animals that scurry, King James says, creepeth on the earth, creepeth upon the earth. Kingdom man, you were created to be God's representative. You were created, if you would, to be God's agent in this world. Man was given power by God to share in his rule of administration. Administration of what, Miles? It's there in the text. Administration of the earth, resources, and over the creatures, because he was made in God's very own image. It was once stated by an American biblical scholar and theologian by the name of Pete Enns, E-N-N-S. The phrase image of God is not about what makes us human, but it's about humanity's unique role in being God's kingly representative in creation, end quote. To make this just a little more clear, man of God, let's take a historical look back at images and what they meant in days of old, especially in the Mesopotamian world. The word Mesopotamian is formed from two ancient words, and I'm talking about becoming this concept of God's kingdom man. The word Mesopotamian is formed from two ancient words. Number one, the first word is meso, M-E-S-O, which means between or in the middle. The word Patmos, P-A-T-A-M-O-S, Patmos, means river, and it refers to the country between two rivers. You see, it was situated in the fertile valley between the Tigris and Euphrates River. The region is now the home to the modern world of Iraq, Kuwait, Turkey, and Syria. But in the Mesopotamian world, beloved, of ancient times, statues, I'm trying to help you understand this image so you can fully understand the concept of the kingdom man. Back in ancient times, statues were erected of kings all over the land. Whatever the king's domain was, there were statues of the king throughout his kingdom and throughout his domain. Now, the statues were not the king. Of course, you know that. They were made mostly out of stone, marble. The statues were not the king, but they were an image of the king. They were a representative, if you would. They were, watch this, they were reminders of the king to everyone who laid eyes upon the image. Hold on to your hat, kingdom man. You see, kingdom man, when we look at Psalms, the second division, this psalm is about the coronation of Israel's king. This king is no ordinary man. He is God's anointed and chosen king. Now, no, it was not God's idea in the beginning, but God himself, watch this now, installed this king. And the Bible says, in Psalms 2 and verse number 6, the Bible said God installed this king on Zion, his holy hill. Zion refers to a mountain in Jerusalem. All right? It refers to a mountain in Jerusalem. You see, the heart of this psalm, Psalms 2, the heart of this psalm is found in verse number 7. The New Living Translation says it this way. God says to the king, "You are my son. Today I have become your father." Now, brethren, watch this. Watch the connection and watch the representation. God puts Israel's king on the throne. He makes him and refers to him as his son, for him to rule over his people on his behalf. You see the correlation and parallel from Genesis 1? Notice this father and son relationship between God and the king, which lines up with the ancient Mesopotamian thinking and culture. My time is going, so let me hurry to close this out because I want to be on time. We're doing real well with our time here. In closing, out this lesson, notice further that unlike other nations, Israelites, watch this now, unlike other nations, Israelites' kings were never to be worshipped. Watch this now. Because the king is still a representative of God, although it was Israel who rejected God's position as their holy father. And they wanted to be like other nations, the Bible says. They wanted to be like other nations, and they wanted to rule, have a ruler over them like other nations. Yet and still, when God allowed this king, you'll see who it is in just a moment, Saul, y'all know it well. He allowed this king, it was not God's original plan, but God allowed it, but God never gave up his position to be worshipped and to be adored and to be praised. The king was never to be praised. He was a representative of God. He was not a God. All right? Not to Israel. Now, the kings of old, yeah, the people worshiped them like they were God, but never for Israel. All right? Israel kings were under the will, watch this now, pay attention carefully, they were under the will and expectation of God. That's what we are, kingdom man. We are not to be worshipped by our family. We are not to be worshipped by our constituents. We are representatives of God. All right? So Israel kings were under the will and the expectation of God. Just as we pointed out in Psalms 2. But now watch this. Let's go quickly to 1 Samuel chapter 8. I want to just walk through a couple of verses here in 1 Samuel 8, and then this lesson will be yours. This 11th edition of Living as God's Kingdom Man, looking at and understanding the true concept of the kingdom man. In 1 Samuel 8, around verse number 5, as a result of Samuel's sons who were greedy, and they became fraudulent judges. Sound familiar? We got all kind of elected officials now who have gone rogue, who have just forgotten about the Constitution, that body of law that governs all government officials. That's what happened to Samuel's sons. They were greedy, and they became fraudulent judges. It's like Prego. It's in there, 1 Samuel 8, verse 5. These judges who took bribes, they were perverting. They became perverted and perverted there and disgraced their judgeship. And the elders of Israel got together and they were fed up with it, and they were angry about it. And the elders of Israel got together and they asked Samuel for a king because the judges had become corrupt. In verse 6, Samuel was upset, and rightfully so. I would be upset too if I trained my children and raised my children a certain way, prepared them for the work of the Lord, and then they allowed somebody else to come in, or the culture of the time come in and disrupt them and corrupt what they have been taught, and they begin to act in different ways. I would be upset too, and I know you would too. All right? We pour into our children. We teach them the way of the Lord. And I'm sure that's what Samuel did. He was a faithful judge. But these boys became corrupt. They forgot where they had come from. They had forgot their training. That happened sometime in life. And he was upset. But watch what he did. Samuel prayed to God. That ought to be a lesson to us, men of God, kingdom man, brethren. When times get rough, when times get hard, when our children seem to lose their way, don't become worldly. Pray to God. Pray to God. All right? Look what he says in verse 9. God told Samuel, since they rejected me, after all I've done, tell them exactly how the king is going to rule over them if they choose to have a king. See what kind of God we serve? God is always trying to turn us around. God is always trying to call us back to the place of safety. All right? He's always trying to protect us. So he told them in verses 9 through 18, God told Samuel, all right, tell them exactly what's going to happen if they get this king. In verses 19 and 20, watch what they did. Hard-headed and stubborn like a mule. They refused to listen to the warning of God by Samuel. Now, don't miss this. Yes, those boys were wrong. They were wrong. But they don't let two wrongs will never make a right. Don't let somebody who do you wrong make you turn around and do wrong. All right? You stay with the Lord. All right? But they allowed the badness of the judges, they allowed it to corrupt their heart and their thinking. And so in verse 19 and 20, they refused to listen to the warning that God gave to them through Samuel. And then watch this, I'm closing. In verse 21 and 22, Samuel told God about Israel's stubbornness and their response and their rejection. And God told Samuel to give them what they want. Sometimes that was what God will do. He will give us what we want, but here's the tragedy. God sometimes will give you what you want and you'll turn around and lose what you had. And what you had was greater than your want. And what you had was better for you, but you were blinded by your wanting. Teach, Miles. I think I will. In chapter 9, that was Samuel 8. But 1 Samuel chapter 9, God gave Samuel instructions because the king, watch this, because the king was still going to be a representative of God. That's what we are. We are not the king. We're not to be worshipped. We are representatives of God. That's why I tell people all the time, watch what you put on Facebook. Watch the pictures you put on Facebook. Watch the things you share on Facebook. Keep your private business to yourself. If you're not going to act like a representative of God, surely don't show it to everybody. Hello, somebody. Watch this. God gave Samuel instructions because the king was still going to be a representative of God. 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. Samuel secretly anoints Saul as king of Israel. But he anoints him by God's commandment and under God's guidance. Why? Because the king was still supposed to represent God. Don't allow your education. Don't allow your calling. Don't allow your choosing. Don't allow the favor of God that falls upon you. Don't allow that to corrupt your thinking and make you start thinking you all of that and lose what you had in the first place. You are not your own. You still represent God. So he anoints him. Listen to the New Living Translation, chapter 10, verse 1 of 1 Samuel. Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it over Saul's head. He kissed Saul and said, quote, I am doing this because the Lord has appointed you to be the ruler over Israel, his special possession, end of quote. All right. So everything that Samuel was doing was under the guidance of God because Samuel, as a judge, was a representative of God. And now he will give them Saul as a king, and Saul as well is still a representative of God. That's the concept of the kingdom man. He is God's representative. Finally, as I close, that's my third closing. Saul is made king before the Lord and all of the people at Gilgal, according to 1 Samuel chapter 11 and verse number 15. Brethren, I shared this documentation and chronicles of Saul to press upon your hearts that man, no matter what position, no matter what level he rises to in his life, was created to represent God. To represent God in the realm in which God has given him. Some of us, God has given a small realm to. We have just a remnant of God's people to pastor and to shepherd. And I come to tell you, no matter how small your flock is, give it all you got Study as hard as you can. Meditate as long as you can. Pray as hard as you can. Turn and burn the midnight oil as much as you can, because you are representing God. I don't care how small your meeting place is. I don't care how small your city is. I don't care how small your flock is. You are just as important as the man whom God calls to a flock of 3,000, 5,000, because you are representing God. Hallelujah. The question is, as I close, the question is, who are you looking like? Who are you looking like? Who are you trying to look like? Who are you trying to be like? Don't be like Mike. Be like Christ. Who are you representing? What is your image? When people see you, what do they really see? See, the problem with many of us, when we get to a certain place in life, because God has put his hands on us, and you'll see, if you follow that story through Saul, as long as Saul was acting and thinking and leading and ruling like a representative of God, God had kept his hand and favor on Saul. But when Saul got beside himself and decided that he was Mr. Big Stuff, and he forgot how he became king, he forgot that he hid among the stuff, and God had to pull him out, had to anoint him and appoint him and equip him and put his hands on him. Sometimes some of us can't take God putting his hands on us, because we lose our mind and start to think it's all of us, and then God has to snatch us down. Don't let that be your plight. Don't let that be your plight, man of God. Brethren, fellow men, don't let that be your plight. Don't allow your promotions to cloud your mind. Don't allow your rising up, your great positions, the things you've acquired. Don't allow that to cloud your mind. Does not matter what position you have come to. As a man of God, a kingdom man, we are still to represent God. Don't allow all these new freedoms that the black man have in America. Don't you allow that to cause you to forget who you represent. Use your body well. Stop using your body as a ink pad to express yourself. Present your body to Christ as a living sacrifice. No, I'm not telling you tattoos as a sin, but what I am telling you, tattoos can become sinful. My son, I remember when he was young, and I told him, y'all can do what you want when you get out of my house. But the devil got in my house, and they slicked their way and got some tattoos. And no, I didn't reward that. They'll tell you, I don't play with my children. I'm their father. I'm not their friend. And he said, well, Daddy, what if I got the Lord's Prayer on my arm? I said, son, somebody see that Lord's Prayer. They ain't going to be reading no Lord's Prayer. They're going to say, oh, that looks nice. What if I put my mama picture on? They not going to think about how you honoring your mom. They'll say, oh, that's a nice picture of your mother. But son, where are you representing God? So no, I'm not telling you tattoos are a sin. But what I am saying to you, who are you representing? That's what I'm asking you. Who are you representing? Are you representing yourself? Are you representing your fraternity? Do you give more time to your fraternity than you do to your Christianity? Do you give more time to your career and your job than you give to your Christianity? You have been created to represent God. Think about these things. Until next time. I commend you to God and the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among the sanctified. May God bless you and may he keep you. Take care of yourself.